Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Marche, the webinar director here at Advice Chaser. Before we introduce our guests and get started, I do need to do a little bit of legal housekeeping. Advice Chaser, the host of this webinar, is not a registered investment advisor. We cannot and do not give financial advice. Today's presentation is for educational purposes only and cannot be considered advice for any person's individual situation. Advice Chaser regularly hosts informative webinars such as this one, featuring a variety of knowledgeable professionals, many of whom are licensed advisors. Any opinions, ideas, jokes, or principles expressed by presenters are their own, and however true, funny, or interesting, are not endorsed by Advice Chaser. Please do not act on the information you hear today without consulting a qualified financial professional. We are thrilled to bring you this educational presentation today. Attendees are muted, but we do encourage you to ask questions using the chat box, and the presenter will answer those queries during or after the webinar today as appropriate. If you ask a question in the chat box, go ahead and leave your contact information as well. If we can't get to your question during the event, we'll make sure someone reaches out to you afterwards. We want this experience to be as educational as possible, so please don't hesitate to ask for clarification or expansion of the material. Well, I'd love to introduce you to our guests today. I'll start with our moderators, who are from the Tennessee Valley Group at Morgan Stanley. Alex Gilliam was born and raised in Farragut, Knoxville, Tennessee. He earned his bachelor's degree in finance with a collateral in marketing from the University of Tennessee. Alex started at Morgan Stanley in 2017 and is currently a financial advisor with the Certified Financial Planner Practitioner designation. Alex has a passion to understand the diverse needs of his firm's clients' lives and to develop the most appropriate investment strategy for their unique situation. Outside of work, Alex enjoys sports and serving in his church. Alex, why don't you come off of mute and say hello so people can see you on the video?
Yes, thanks for the introduction, Marche. So excited to be here, guys. Corey, my partner, is going to go into more detail about our team, but thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much. And then I'd love to introduce Corey Wilson. He is the Senior Vice President of Wealth Management with the Tennessee Valley Group at Morgan Stanley, a graduate from East Tennessee State University with a Bachelor of Business Administration, focusing on finance. Corey also holds designations of Certified Financial Planner Practitioner and Certified Investment Management Analyst. Having worked in the industry since 2002, Corey offers clients a seasoned professional who is competent to assist you in making life-changing financial decisions. When not at work, Corey and his family enjoy spending time in service to his church and the community of Knoxville. And Corey, I know you wanted to say a few words, so I'll go ahead and turn over the time to you.
Sure. Thank you so much. I just want to say thanks to everyone who's joined us today. I'll speak on behalf of our team. So I represent the Tennessee Valley Group at Morgan Stanley. A couple things about us. We're all in East Tennessee and Knoxville, Tennessee, but our footprint is actually pretty wide. So we actually serve clients border to border, coast to coast, all around the U.S. And our service model is the same. The scope of what we bring to clients is quite wide in terms of course, people that come see us for financial advice around planning and implementation of portfolios. But beyond that, if you've been to our website or go to our website, you'll see we help with estate planning, trusts, and insurance, risk, you name it. And that leads me to why we like moderating these type of webinars, is that health can mean a lot of different things. And sure, there's financial health, and there's mental health, and there's spiritual health, and there's emotional health. And so just the idea of self-care and that conversation, I think, has been pretty interesting. It was a focus 2 years ago when we were all shut down and living in our homes. But since then, and even during then, I think there's been a lot of communication, maybe miscommunication, misunderstanding. And so I think it's great to have someone like Debbie come on and just really talk about what does that mean? What's that mean to you? Why is it important to you as an individual, your family, the people you work with, so forth and so on. So as always, I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you, Corey. Our presenter today is Debbie Elder, and she's the nation's leader in motivating students to be peak performers. Her varied background includes running the disciplinary unit of the Calgary Young Offender Center as a therapeutic foster parent, a homeschooler, a college planner, and after-school program director. She currently owns the Shady Oaks Primary School, and she loves to share her incredible knowledge in simple steps that can be implemented immediately. She has experience speaking to students, teachers, corporate America, entrepreneurs, and people who want to be successful at life. And Debbie, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the time to you. We're really excited to have you speak with us today.
Thank you, Marche. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I'm glad to be back with Alex and Corey again. We had a great time on our last webinar, which I hope if you missed it, you'll take an opportunity to watch it at your earliest convenience. Today, we're going to talk about self-care, which is really important, as Corey mentioned, and it continues to be very important. I know here at school, we had a staff meeting on Saturday, and a big focus of that meeting was on my teachers ensuring that they had a plan to continue their self-care throughout the school year. Because if they show up to school depleted, they can't serve the students and families that are in our community. And I think it's the same for all of us. We need to make sure we're pouring into ourselves to ensure that we have enough to pour out as we serve others. And for years, self-care was always deemed to be somewhat of a selfish practice. And I'd like to start by giving you all permission to release that thought. That is no longer the case. We've proven it scientifically repeatedly that we need to replenish, just like you take care of your vehicles and maintain all of your computer products and your any kind of indestructible things that you have in the house, maybe your washing machine, everything needs to be cared for. We do too. So I'm going to give you permission to release that old belief and to step into what we're doing in 2022, which is taking care of ourselves first so we can take care of others. Now, we know we have some basic physical needs, right? We need to meet our need for shelter and food and water. I know right now in Texas, it has been incredibly hot, and we've had to really educate our students on hydration and making sure they're not only getting enough water, but also enough electrolytes. So we're giving out lots of Gatorade and trying to keep them hydrated so that they can enjoy their time at camp with us. And those are great. Those are important, and they are very necessary, but just as necessary are our basic psychological needs, which I want to spend some time going over. And this is really a recipe for happiness. And I think if you can just keep that in mind, when you meet your 4 needs on a daily basis, you're happy. When you're happy, people want to be with you. You want to be with others. Life just goes a whole lot better. So we're going to go over these, and then I'm going to give you some general practices I'd like you to consider implementing into your daily lifestyle and making a part of your daily routine. So number 1 is love. It's not romantic love, although that's always nice. This love is a feeling of belonging, of friendship. And I always measure it with, if I didn't show up somewhere, would I be missed? And if so, then there's a feeling of love there. So you might meet this need of love with your family, with your church community. Maybe you're in a mastermind group and you can meet it there. I know I belong to several different networking groups that if I'm not there, the next time I show up, people ask about me. And I think that sense of belonging is really important for us as humans. The second is power, and it's not power over others, which sometimes my students struggle a little bit with understanding. It's really power at what you do well. What are you competent at? What are you known for, maybe in your industry, as being the best at? That's your sense of power, and you need to meet that need on a daily basis. Next is fun. You need to have fun. And I know the older we get and the more responsibilities we take on, we tend to forget to have fun. And that's a big mistake. I want you to ensure that you create fun. Now, it doesn't have to be, a big, extensive travel plans. It can be something as simple as driving into work and listening to music that you truly enjoy. Or maybe there's a comedy you like to watch on television. Or maybe there's a friend you enjoy having a glass of wine with. All of those are fun. And you need to make a conscious effort to insert that into your daily life. And last is freedom. Freedom is your ability to meet your needs without encroaching on anyone else's ability to meet theirs. So when you have all of these, and now you know what the 4 are, at the end of the day, I want you to sort of lie in bed and go through your list. Did I meet my need for love, for fun, for freedom, for power today? Because if you have kind of an off day, I know what's happened. You've neglected to meet one or more of these essential basic needs. So this will give you just sort of a checklist mentally to go through. And I know one of the exercises I use if we were together live is I would stop right now and ask you to list in 4 categories what you do currently to meet your need for these 4 things: love, power, fun, and freedom. And don't be surprised if one of these areas is lacking terribly in your daily life currently, but it's not uncommon. So don't beat yourself up over it. Just get creative and maybe introduce this to friends or family members, and you can all work on it together. But these are basic needs. Just as important as being hydrated, you need to meet these 4 needs on a daily basis to ensure that you're happy. So this is your first step in self-care. So next we want to talk about is your self-talk. And that's, what am I saying to myself? We all do it. We all talk about and filter what's going on in our world, but often that self-talk can be very, very negative. So here's some questions that you can ask yourself about what you're saying, about how you're perceiving the world, the people, the circumstances around you. So is what I'm telling myself true? Because sometimes we get into a loop and we tell ourselves things that if we really thought about it, they're just not true, right? We get into a habit of believing something because of a perception, something we were told maybe when we were a child, that making money is hard, or I don't deserve to be prosperous. It's not true, right? So you have to evaluate, what are the things you're saying to yourself? Then, does it serve my best interest? Does it really allow me to be the best I can on a daily basis? How am I showing up in the world? And how is my self-talk affecting the way that I show up? Does it advance and protect my health? Because often, and again, scientifically backed, what we believe about ourselves and our health directly affects how we feel, right? So our thoughts are truly feelings. So if you can start to protect your feelings, you're going to feel physically a whole lot better. And it's all about mindset. We've talked in the last seminar about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So if you have a growth mindset, just to recap briefly, you have the idea that you might not know how to do something yet, but you have resources, you have people you can talk to, you have experts you can go to, you have the internet, you can figure it out. A fixed mindset believes you're born the way you're born and nothing's going to change. There's nothing I can do. I'm stuck here. And that fixed mindset can really limit your ability to have and practice proper self-care and to feel a deep sense of happiness and joy. And lastly, does it get me what I want? So if your thinking is interrupting your ability to progress, maybe in your career or with relationships or with areas of enjoyment that you want to go, maybe you don't think you're good enough to be in a cycling group, well, then get out and cycle and get better, right? You have opportunities to improve. And I want to encourage you to take those opportunities. Anything you want, you can have. You just have to attack it with a definiteness of purpose and a decision, a strong desire and faith in yourself to go after it and get it. So keep in mind and really protect your self-talk. Make sure, because I think what happens is we say things to ourselves we would never say to another person. So I want you to start your self-talk journey by being very, very gentle with yourself. We wouldn't expect certain things from children. When we first teach them how to walk, for example, we don't expect them to run a marathon. And I think sometimes as adults, we're really hard on ourselves. So stop that. I want you to really be gentle with yourself as if you were caring for another person whom you love dearly, because self-love is how you generate love for others. So we really need to take care of that relationship with ourselves. And if you're in a position right now where it's not in a good place, get some therapy, get some help, go see someone who can counsel you to get to a point where you can manage it on your own.
Got a question for you, Debbie.
Yes.
First one I got is, you talked about the 4 categories of basic self-care needs. Can you give me some examples of each one of those, of things we might do in each category?
Sure. So love would be belonging. Maybe you volunteer at a nursing home and you really have an impact there, and the people you work with and the clients that you serve would, again, miss you if you weren't there. It's being involved in a reciprocal relationship. Power is something you do very well. So maybe as a child, you're the best kid in math class and you know it, right? There's some power in that. Fun is anything you find pleasurable or that you get enjoyment from. I personally get a lot of enjoyment from working out and from reading and from spending time with friends. If I don't do those 3 things on a regular basis, I don't feel very happy. I can feel something missing in my life. And lastly, the one that is the most difficult for those to understand is freedom. And the best example, Alex, I can give you of that, I have 2 daughters. They were born very close together. And my youngest was born in November. I was living in Calgary at the time. And November, December, January, February, March, sometimes into April, is quite cold. And I can distinctly remember getting Natasha dressed in her snowsuit to go out. And by the time I got Melissa, the baby, ready, Natasha's taking clothes off because she's hot. And it was just, there would be some very, very frustrating days. I did not know about these basic needs then. And when my husband came home, I was frustrated. And if I had sort of understood freedom, all I would have had to say to him was, hey, can you take the kids for 30 minutes? I'm just going to go for a walk, or I'm going to have a quick bath. I just need some time for me. I need some freedom. And so knowing that, I think I would have, well, it would have been a happier time in our marriage. And I think I might have been a better mom. So don't be afraid to assert your need for some freedom, for some choice, for some independence, to ensure you're meeting your needs the way that fits best for you. Does that help, Alex? Good question. So to be happier, you need to take action. It doesn't just happen. We all have, and if we don't, we should, and this is another step you can take, an idea of, if we were living our best lives, if we were being our best selves, if we were showing up at 100% who we are, what would that look like? And start doing that now. Just act as if. Right? Have a vision of what you want to be and step into the vision. You're not going to get it right 100% of the time. None of us do. But if you can start taking action along that regard, you will eventually make changes. You will start to act and be the person that you dream of being. So you move towards what you want without stopping others from getting their needs. And this is really, really important. As I mentioned earlier, you can have anything you want, provided you don't interrupt somebody else from getting what they need. So that's a really important thing to remember. And, happiness is an inside job. It's not about circumstances. Nothing in the outside world can determine how you feel. And you need to stop allowing that to happen, because it's robbing you of the happiness that you deserve. So there are roadblocks, and it's important to be aware of these. So one of them is mindless living. So you ever, zone out in conversations? I know my students do it sometimes when the teachers are talking. They're like daydreaming, or they're off somewhere else, or they're thinking about somewhere else they'd rather be than in school, perhaps. Or maybe in the morning you put the milk in the cupboard and the cereal in the refrigerator. Why? Because you're not present. You ever driven home? And I know I'm guilty of this, driving down 59 in Houston, and all of a sudden I'm home and I don't really remember the details of the trip, because I make that trip all the time. And I think when you're on autopilot, we miss the opportunities to make changes in life, to really be present with others. And I know this is a big theme. It's been going on now for several years. And this is just a reminder that those 2 things, that mindless living and being on autopilot, are definite roadblocks to happiness. And we want to make sure that we can avoid those if at all possible. The way you do it is being mindful and making decisions. And I'm going to give you some tools a little bit later on that will help you. And I'm going to give you a lot of tools. And if you implemented all the tools I'm going to give you, you'd never get to work. So pick one to get started with, and then you can implement and switch them out, which is what I do. But I have a practice every morning that really works for me. I get up, it's quiet, it's 4:30, and I have time to really think about my day, think about who I want to show up as, and get real clear on what my sort of outcome I want to have for the day. I might check my calendar to see what's going on, get ready mentally for the meetings or the webinar or the teaching that I'm doing. And that really seems to settle me, and it really seems to help me be a lot more productive. So if you don't currently have those types of practices, you might want to consider it. I know for me, the worst thing I can do is start my day rushed or stressed or feeling I'm already late because I overslept. Those are the worst days, right? And so taking control of that and making sure that you have a routine and a process, and maybe even there's some rituals pulled in there that you like to use or do, that really can help settle you. So when you walk out of the house, you're confident, you're self-directed, self-regulated, and ready to go have a very, very successful day.
Debbie, you spoke to it a little bit right there, but if you could spend a moment more just on the mindful versus mindless. It's something I read very recently. Even around the world of fitness and eating right, they've discovered a lot of challenges with most people's diets or what they eat is a lot of people do distracted eating. So they're watching the latest Netflix episode or whatever, and they just mindlessly eat. And so they have shown a lot of progress in just being mindful of enjoying what you're actually eating. And so a lot of interesting data, but I think a lot of us there's a million distractions. How do you flip the switch? But I mean, is it just repeating, stay focused all day? I don't know. I feel like a lot of us come from a world of distraction right now.
It's a great question, Corey. And I know that my students here at school can really struggle with that, especially if they've been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. And so we do a lot of work with breathing. That seems to really help to get us focused. There's a couple of things. I'm going through some trauma training right now and how to deal with people that have gone through intense trauma. And one of the things that we use and we teach our students and the adults I work with is the magic mustache. And that's just putting your finger here. There's a pressure point here that allows you to calm down and to be aware is a big part. I know that the worst thing is, right, you finish the Netflix show and the whole bag of chips has been consumed. You're like, oh my gosh. I know for myself, when you were talking about working out, I try to be very cognizant of whatever muscle group I'm working on at the time and to visualize the effect of the weights that I'm lifting or the walking that I'm doing. And that seems to really help. And that's been proven to affect a greater or more rapid change to your physique. So there is a lot of scientific connection. But I know for me, being really calm in the morning and setting intentions really helps me to stay focused. It doesn't work all the time. Like you, Corey, I have a very busy job. It's demanding. There's kids walking in my office whenever they feel they need something, parents are calling. But that setting of intention, and after I get disrupted, going back and taking just a few minutes to reset my intention has really happened. And it didn't happen overnight. Like most other things, it's a practice. And you have to, going back to my original slide, you have to be so gentle with yourself. You're not going to get it the first time. Like I said earlier, we don't expect a toddler who's just started to walk to run a marathon. So be gentle with yourself. And if setting intention is new to you, then allow yourself some hiccups along the way, because you're going to have them. And just be willing to come back to your intention of setting intentions and try it again. And it's just, the more you do it, it's like trying to lose weight and blowing your diet. You can give up, or you can get up the next day and start again, right? So there's nobody dictating that because you've made a mistake, now the game's over and you've lost. That's not what life works at all. It's a continual practice. You know, you think about yoga, and there's people who have done yoga their entire life and they still call it a practice because they're not perfect yet. So we are humans that continue to evolve. And I think being aware, I know, like I believe you do, Corey, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a lot of books, I'm very intentional and try to put meaningful information in. And I'm careful about garbage in, garbage out. So I'm very protective of both what I eat, what I do, who I hang with, what I listen to, and what I watch. And I didn't used to be like that. And the change has been, for me, miraculous. It's made a big difference in my feeling of well-being. So it was very much worth the investment. So I would encourage others to consider that and to really, this is a great time. I know because I'm in education, the beginning of the school year is kind of like New Year's Eve for us. We kind of reevaluate what our intentions are for the school year. In fact, at our meeting on Saturday, I had my teachers write a letter to themselves outlining with as much specificity as they could what the next school year is going to look like as if it's already happened, right? So they wrote their letter to themselves that they will then receive in May and open up. And that letter will reflect their intentions that they set in August. And they're amazed every year at how close the year is and how it reflects what their intentions were. It's the same with everything. So we can either set our intentions or we can allow others to direct our attentions and our energies. I prefer to direct myself. So those are just some practices that are very, very helpful. And I've proven them over the years to be very effective in my life. Oh, margins. These are my favorite. So when I was in school in Canada, if you look on the picture, do you see that red line on the left-hand side of the page? We were not, oh my gosh, we were not allowed to write at the top or on the side. The margins were for the teachers. And if we wrote in there, we got big trouble. And I think what happens is we are not protecting the margins in our life, right? We get so busy, we say yes all the time, and we don't protect those margins. And what happens is we become overstimulated and overwhelmed. I hear from so many people, I'm so exhausted, I'm so overwhelmed, I never seem to get anything done, I'm never getting ahead. And then you sit down with them and you look at their lifestyle and you're like, well, you have no margins. There's no buffer. When I work with students getting ready to present a project or to hand in an essay, they sometimes will push it right to the very end. That's really stressful. Give yourself a couple of days before the big project is due, before you've got to turn that report into your boss. What if something happens? If you have that buffer, if you protect your margins in life, you can breathe easier. You have a deep sense of accomplishment and you wrap it up a couple of days early. And you deserve to have that buffer, the sense and peace of mind that you get knowing that you have. It's the same with financial planning, right? You don't want to be living paycheck to paycheck. You want to have a buffer. You want to have money that you have in case of an emergency, right? So that buffer in life in all areas and all aspects is really, really important. So again, I encourage you to look at your lifestyle and ensure in all the major areas that you have very distinct margins, that you're setting boundaries. It's important to set boundaries. And sometimes we feel that we're not being nice if we don't protect ourselves, or if we say no to the head of the PTA to bring cookies. Never mind. You need to protect you, going back to the beginning, because if there's nothing left to pour into others, you're not doing your job, right? Your job is to ensure that you are able to help with those cookies at PTA if that's something you want to do, or bake those brownies. But there's times when it's just not appropriate for you to be pouring out. So make sure you save some of that time that you need by protecting and setting very clear boundaries in relationships and making sure you've got margins to protect different aspects of your life. So laughter is a great way to promote self-care, and there are physiological effects that are induced and are very similar to narcotics, but they are not addictive at all. And they've proven the release of a lot of different hormones when you laugh. And it's just something that I've really tried to make it a habit to, well, that's why I hang out with kids all the time. I got to tell you, we laugh a lot here on campus. And I think if you're too serious, if you are very serious all the time, you attract seriousness into your life. So loosen up a bit, have some fun, surround yourself with people that make you laugh. Listen to that comedy show on the way in to work in the morning. Surround yourself with funny friends, hang out with kids. They're great. They say the craziest things. And put some laughter back into your life. So how do you foster a happier life? There's some steps that you can take. Like yourself. Self-esteem grows out of achieving realistic results. Nobody can give you self-esteem. It's how you feel about yourself. Yeah, it's really nice when your friends and family comment on and say nice things to you. But if you don't believe them, if you think they're just saying it to be nice, if you don't feel they're sincere, then it doesn't register with you and it doesn't resonate. So you need to do things. That's how you get self-esteem. You actually accomplish things. You are successful. You take one step at a time and you measure your success. You're optimistic, right? You know, they talk about the glass being half full or half empty. Take a minute to evaluate. Are you an optimistic person? And if not, why not? Right? Optimism brings solutions. Pessimism brings problems and challenges. So I have a saying in my office, and I've got it up here, that says, no problems, only solutions. And I truly believe that, because I decide whether something is a problem or not. If I deem it to be a problem, then I'm right away looking for solutions. And somebody asked me a while back if that was just a little bit of a Pollyanna kind of thought process. And I said, no, I truly believe that once I deem it to be a problem, I can find a solution. The brain loves a challenge, which is why you want to ask it questions, right? You want to formulate things into a question. And if you can't come up with a solution, there's lots of other people around that can help you. So be optimistic and set out, think big, make things happen, find the people to support you, and just go for it, right? Hit those big, big goals. You should have big, hairy, audacious goals that you're going after all the time, because that's what feeds you with enthusiasm and gives you that want to get out of bed in the morning and go capture that goal. Be active, stay active. As Corey mentioned, there's a lot of connection between mental health and physical activity, and you want to make sure that you're capitalizing on that opportunity. Stay in control. And by that, I mean, watch your anger, watch your negativity, be careful who you hang out with. Toxic people can infect you with their toxicity, and you can become negative right along with them. So you want to just be mindful of who you're spending your time with. And when we lose control, it doesn't feel very good. When you say something out of spite or out of anger and then have to go back and take it back and say you're sorry, that's important, but it doesn't feel very good. So if anger is something you're learning how to manage, there's lots of tools and techniques out there to sort of give you an opportunity, but take some time to figure out what is the source of the anger, because oftentimes it's got nothing to do with the circumstances that are going on. So if you can get to the source of the anger and direct that source somewhere else, or fix it, or get help to repair it, I think you'll see a big change in your ability to stay in control. Getting enough rest, making sure you're not getting hangry, that you're eating on a regular basis, all of that can help for you to stay in control. And staying in control and being in control feels a whole lot better than being out of control. Volunteering is a great way to give back to the community and also to fill your soul. It feels really, really good to help others. And we here at our school do a lot of community volunteering, mainly because I want my students, even though they're 1st through 5th grade, to understand, even as a child, you have the ability to affect and help others, that you have gifts and talents and abilities to share that can make our neighborhood, our community, a better place to be. You want to resolve inner conflict, whatever's going on with you, take the time, read the books, figure it out, and get that resolution so that you can move forward without having those burdens to drag along with you, because that's what it is, right? Sometimes you need to forgive people, not for them, but for you, right? Just let it go. And lastly, practice idle conversation. It's really quite fun to speak to the person in front of you in line at Starbucks. Just ask about their day, make a comment on what they're wearing. Just involve yourself in being a part of the human race and enjoying the people around you when you're with them. They're all such a gift, and they have so much to offer you. And if you're willing to remember that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth and do a lot more listening, you'll learn a whole lot more. So here's some actions you can take that we're going to go through. These are the tools that I mentioned. So scripting, setting a wish list, having a gratitude journal, using daily affirmations, setting goals, prayer, and daily practice of meditation. So we'll go ahead and start with scripting. So scripting is when you tell your story. So this is one of my favorite things to do, which is why I put it first. So when you get up in the morning, again, you might look at your calendar to see what's going on, and then write the story of your day. Set your intention. As I mentioned, my teacher set it for the entire school year. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to set it for the day. So tell your story. So it was on, and set the date. And then you describe yourself, the beautiful, timeless, filled with vitality, prosperous Debbie Elder, and then talk about what's going on for your day, right? So I've already seen this webinar in my mind and how well it went and how well received it was and what great questions Alex and Corey had and how everyone who's listening is getting a little nugget of either a reminder of something they already knew or maybe learning some new information or some new strategies to implement. It's powerful when you set your intention. And so this is just a really quick tool to allow you to do that. And if you'll keep them, as you can see on the picture here, this person is keeping them on a ring. You can keep a notebook. It's just fascinating to go back and just see how well you are getting at setting your intentions and allowing them to play out in your life, right? You're the director of your life. You have the ability to edit things that you don't want to think about anymore. You don't want to, a lot of people tell stories over and over again about things that happen in their life that maybe were not very nice or not very good, or about times in their life when things were terrible, when they hit rock bottom. Let it go. If you were an editor, you'd probably cut that out of the movie. Just let it fall on the ground, move on, talk about the good things, and remind yourself on a daily basis how blessed you are to be where you are and how well you're moving forward to reach your goals.
I do have a question, Debbie. This
Yes.
one came in. You're getting a little bit on it, but so many of us have a hard time getting started, either with work, starting a new habit, self-care, or any other endeavor. Can you talk a little bit about that? Some best tips to start?
That's a great question, Alex. You know what it goes back to is, what's your why? So why are you on this webinar? What are you hoping to gain? I know for me, I don't go to a meeting ever without an agenda of my own. Meaning I don't go in and take over the meeting. That's not what I mean. But if I can't figure out the purpose of going to the meeting, I'm probably not going to attend, right? So I think life is kind of like that. So you've got to figure out your why. Why am I going to increase my self-care? What's the value of it? And write that list down, because I know for me, that's a great reminder of why this has meaning and purpose, why I'm going to put the time in to learning about affirmations, or to set goals, or to plan for advancement in my career, or to go take that course on a Saturday when I'd much rather be at the beach with my family. Why? Why am I doing that? I don't want to just drift, right? Driftlessness, or people that drift, have no purpose and they're just kind of going with the flow. And what happens is you end up helping others to complete their goals. I want you to complete your goals. And so once you have a really clear understanding of your why, it's much easier to get up and take action. And again, you're going to have days where your days kind of get away from you, and that's okay. Take some time at the end of the day, though, to debrief, to think about it, to really reflect on what happened today. How can I maybe affect change so I don't have another runaway day like that? Maybe I do need to close my office door when I've got something I need to focus on. Maybe I do need to carve out time and put it on my calendar where it's just me time, and block that time. And I think we forget to do that. I know when I'm teaching my students how to use their planner at the beginning of each school year, I tell them the first thing you put in the planner is everything that you want to do. You want to watch a TV show on a certain night and not watch it recorded and not hear about it the next day at school? Put that in your planner. Work all your other stuff around what's important to you. But if you don't know what's important, it's really hard to get started, and it's really easy to not have the tenacity to work through the obstacles and the challenges along the way. So set your why. Wish list. This is another favorite activity of mine, one that I've been doing for many, many years. And why am I doing it? Because it continues to work. So you imagine Aladdin has walked in, he puts down his lamp, he rubs the lamp, and out comes the genie. And she says, oh, no, not 3 wishes. You get 101. The caveat is you need to write them down, not in complete sentences. You just need to, I wish, and start writing down your list. Could be anything from material things that you want, maybe a new car, maybe you want to lose some weight. But after about 30, 35, you'll get rid of all the material, easy things. Now I want you to really think, what do I want? Who do I want to be with? Where do I want to travel to? Where do I want to get in my career? What are my financial goals? And get those written down, and then put the list away for 2 weeks. And within that time, 10 items on your list will have manifested, and it works. And if it doesn't work for you, you need to give me a call. You'll be the first, and we'll talk about why. So again, you're going to write down 101 things on a list, and be gentle with yourself with this also, because I'm at a point now, having done them for so many years, that I can knock out a list in 30 minutes. But the first time I did it, it took me several days because I didn't know what I wanted. I was young. I was foolish. I don't know. I just hadn't even thought about it. People just told me what I wanted. I never really had an opportunity to think about it for myself, because so many of us only know what we don't want. So I am encouraging you and giving you permission to take time, maybe this weekend, to figure out what it is you do want and write it down. Very, very powerful. The wish list will also help you when you're setting goals, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. Keeping a gratitude journal is very, very important. When I started to homeschool my daughters, they were in 3rd and 4th grade. And I told them, I don't want to hang out with 2 grumpy girls. So we're going to keep a gratitude journal, and you're going to write in there what you appreciate, because when there's appreciation, there's joy. Without appreciation, there can be no joy. And I wanted to be with joyful young ladies. And I think in your office, you want to work with people who are joyful, who have gratitude, who appreciate what they have. And so when you keep a gratitude journal, you're going to write 5 things each evening that you're grateful for. And the challenge is to have 5 different things every day, so that you're looking every minute of every day for something to appreciate. And your reticular activated system, your RAS, can help you with that. Once you decide you're looking for things to be grateful for, you'll start to see them, right? Because now you've made a conscious effort to look for those things. And it could be something as simple as the person in front of you in the line at Starbucks bought you a coffee. You can be grateful for that. You can be grateful for the beautiful weather outside. You can be grateful for the fact that your car started in the morning. There's so many things that we take for granted. And I think when you have the challenge of finding new things to be grateful for each day, you're going to start to appreciate the fact that your car did start, that your alarm went off, that you have food in your refrigerator. So really encourage you to practice gratitude. And like anything else, there has to be some action to it. So writing it down in a gratitude journal, and I really encourage you to handwrite it as opposed to typing it on a computer. You can on a computer if you prefer, but there's something about allowing that thought to pass through your body onto a piece of paper that makes it really sticky and allows the gratitude to really immerse itself into your cells, into your being. And that really can accelerate your feelings of happiness and goodwill. Next, we have daily affirmations. And this is where you put in positives, sort of the I can do it. And you want to set your affirmations in the present, right? If you say, I am going to lose 15 pounds, it's like, yeah, but probably not for a couple of years. But if you want to lose it now, I am, and set the weight you want to be at, right? Anything we say after those 2 most important words in the English language, I am, states what's going to happen. So when you're setting your affirmation, set it in the present, not in the past, not in the future, because you want it now. And be willing to repeat those aloud. You might want to put them on your mirror in your bathroom and think about them when you're brushing your teeth in the morning. All of these things take very little time, but have a big punch in being able to change your well-being, the way you think, your mindset, to increase mindfulness. And so daily affirmations, and you can Google these. There's a lot of affirmations that are available to you on the internet. I prefer to write my own because I feel they have much more meaning. And also, if you're repeating an affirmation that you don't believe to be true, it will have the opposite effect. So be general when you start out, and don't get too specific, but be clear on what it is you want, right? Your attitude for your gratitude and your affirmations can really allow you to sort of piggyback a little bit faster, getting what you want. And getting back to your self-talk, that's where these affirmations come in. So be gentle with yourself and set your affirmations that reflect what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Debbie, quick question on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you talk about affirmations, sometimes part of us think back to Stuart Smalley and SNL, and think of it as silliness. Others of us, and probably the bigger challenges, don't want to lie to ourselves, right? And so I think maybe you're answering that. What if we don't believe the things we're saying? How do you approach that? Or is that just part of that positive self-talk and faking it till you make it? Or can you touch on just if you're not quite believing the things you're...
Yeah, I love that reflection to Saturday Night Live. That was awesome. And you're right. If you're telling yourself something like, I have $1 million, and you are living paycheck to paycheck, you're right, it's not going to work. but you can start small. And I think that's it. Start with something that is, it's like setting goals, Corey. If you set a crazy high goal, it may be very difficult to get it, but if you back it up, what are the steps to get that goal? And then set the first step as your goal, and then you achieve that, and then you go to the next step. And it's the same with affirmations. So if your goal is to lose 200 pounds and you decide this month, I am going to eat healthy, right? So it's what's the action involved into reaching what I want? And that's where I would start with affirmations. And that's very doable. And it allows you to actually believe it, because I can go to the gym every day. I can affirm that about myself. I don't have to affirm that I'm going to lose a bunch of weight and be svelte by the weekend, but I can affirm that I am going to go to the gym every day and work out, right? So I think affirming the actions instead of the end result is a great way to start. And you start to believe it because you start to see yourself doing it. And then you can get a little bit more expansive and a little bit more specific with what you affirm. Once there's a sense of, hey, this does work, right? Then you can sort of start to play with getting that feeling. And there is a lot to fake it till you make it. There is a lot about acting as if you want to be, right? So, they always say, if you're looking for a promotion in your career, well, dress and be as if you have that promotion. It's the same. If you want to be thinner, what do thinner people do, right? Where do they eat? What do they drink? How do they move during the day? What are they saying to themselves about their food? Are they slowing down and, like you said earlier, really savoring each bite, or are they wolfing it down in front of a Netflix show, right? What are the practices of the people that are getting the results that you desire? And start to affirm those actions. I think that might help it to feel a little bit more doable.
Yeah. Affirming actions. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And then write down your affirmations, keep it in the present, as I mentioned, upbeat, short, and applicable to you, right? That's why if you grab some off the internet, I think that's a great place to start. If you really have never thought about affirmations, you can go read some and get an idea. But I really encourage you to make the affirmations personal for you, because that's going to have the most power for you. Something along these lines that is another exercise you may consider is to do what's called a 5x55. So if you decide there's something that you would like to manifest in your life, or you would like to change or improve upon, you can take a statement, rewrite it 55 times for 5 consecutive days. And because of the focus you've put into that, it quickly will come into being. And I've had great success using that technique also. So it's called a 5x55. And it takes about 30 minutes. You got to block some time. So there is no, unfortunately, silver bullet for any of this stuff. It takes investment, but that's okay. Investment, as we know, financially, we make investments, is the best thing to do, right? Because that's when you get the returns. And I want you to get the returns that you deserve. And so in order to get those returns, you've got to invest. You've got to invest in you. Who better to invest in than you? So create effective habits. Start small, track your changes. This is a really good thing. And I learned this from reading one of Mr. Cleary's books, is you want to be, or Mr. Clear, sorry, you want to be really clear on what your obstacles could be. So let's say you set a goal, then I want you to think 6 months in advance, what are the things that would stop me from meeting that goal? And then once you're aware of those challenges and obstacles, you can get under, get around, get over, if your why is really clear, because you can do anything, right? You just got to know why you want to get there, and then you'll figure out a way, because you're smart and you have resources and you have people that support you. It's really important to have an accountability partner. I talked earlier about going into the gym. I had a walking partner for years, and no matter how bad I felt in the morning, I was not going to leave her on the corner waiting for me. I got up and I met her. Many of those days I would have just rolled over in bed. I wouldn't have done it for me, but I was not going to not do it for her. So having an accountability partner in whatever endeavors you get into is really, really effective and very helpful, and you can really support each other. And then the right habits are going to get you the success you want. So what are your habits right now, right? If you're someone that has some habits that you're not happy about, or that you don't consider to be healthy or serving you and getting what you want, let's take some time to reflect and figure out what habits need to be changed. Now, don't try to change them all at once. Pick one get that one, get some momentum going, make some changes, start to feel and believe that it's possible, and then pick the next one, right? This is a process. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you've got to be kind, as I mentioned, with yourself. And I like to keep track. I like to journal because I'll go back on those days when, you know, I'm kind of discouraged, and you're going to have those days. So when I go back through, I call it my victory journal. I go back to, and I'm like, oh man, you're awesome. Look at the stuff you've done. That can really give me the fuel I need to keep going. I know a lot of people will keep a folder on their computer of those really nice emails from their boss or from a client saying how great they were or what a great job they did. Keep a file of that stuff because you're going to need days, and who better to pick you up than you? Because sometimes when others say it, when you're feeling down and people try to comfort me, it doesn't always register. It doesn't always land because I'm not there. But when I go through and I convince myself, that works. And so some of the tools I use, like I said, are keeping those emails or those letters that you receive or the cards and going back and reading and marking down. You know, I tell my students, when you are the one that gets the home run in the final game of the tournament and allows your team to win, you want to remember that moment. You want to be able to draw on that moment. You know, when you strike out and the team loses, you want to remember that was today. You know, if you look at all of the great sports heroes, you know, Michael Jordan missed more shots at the hoop than he got in, but you got to remember that. You know, Hank Williams missed more balls at bat than he hit, but you've got to remember the successes. And I think that's really important to keep your victory journal. So setting goals, once you've done your wish list, you're going to notice categories are going to emerge. Those categories can now become your goals because you've identified something that is your why. That's what you're looking for. You've clearly wished for it. So now let's go get it, right? So let's set some goals. And those goals need to have 5 specific categories to them. Otherwise, you're just back to your wish list, right? They're just wishes. So in order to be a goal that you can be successful at, it must be SMART. And that's an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, or action-oriented, relevant, realistic, and time-specific. So specificity means you can't just say, I want to lose weight, because your reticular activative system doesn't know what that looks like. It doesn't mean anything. You've got to be really, really specific. How do you get specific? Well, is it measurable? Weight is a really good thing. You get on the scale, you're like, oh yeah, I got to lose some weight. I know exactly how much I need to lose. I need to lose 8 pounds. And how am I going to do that? Well, I can't keep watching those Netflix shows and eating those potato chips. I'm going to have to get up and take action, go to the gym, find an accountability partner, start working out. Maybe I'm going to go walking, but I'm going to need to take action, something different than I was doing before. Next, you need to make sure that it's relevant and realistic. I'm not going to lose 10 pounds by the weekend, but I might by the end of October, right? So you got to set some realistic goals, and you've got to make sure that it is something that is truly necessary, that you want to make sure you're going to put the time and effort into. And, you know, is it relevant and is it realistic? You need to answer that for yourself. And then you need to set a timeline to it. Now, if you don't hit the timeline, are you unsuccessful? So what if instead of losing 10 pounds by October 31st, I lose 9.5? Have I been unsuccessful? No. A lot of times we set goals thinking, well, 10 would be nice, but I don't know. I have yet to see, even on my own body, a 0.5 pound difference in the way I look, right? We just set this number so we have something to work towards, but you really want to celebrate those successes, even if you didn't quite make the mark. And another thing to remember too, if it was going to take you an extra week or 2 weeks, keep that in mind. Okay, for my body to lose 10 pounds, I need this length of time. How would you know until you did it, right? So again, be gentle with yourself. So just when you're setting goals, you need to review those goals daily. You don't just write it and throw it away. That's something you got to remember. You got to take track of it. You've got to sort of make sure that you're actually doing it and remember your why, and that will help you stay with your goals. And you want to have an action plan that goes with it so you can make sure that you achieve the results that you're looking for. But SMART goal setting are really, really, they've been around a long time. And why is that? Why are we still talking about them? Because they work.
Awesome. I do have a question first.
Okay.
So what about doing this kind of self-care work with a family member, like a spouse or a child? You know, what circumstances should you create so this can be a success? especially if they are struggling with self-care themselves.
That's a really good point. And I think I always start with, what's your why? So talk to me about your life right now. And what is it you're trying to accomplish? And tell me why you want it. Because sometimes people say they want something because they think that's what they're supposed to do. Well, you can't stick with it if you're not in it to win it, right? If it's not resonating with you, then you're going to just go through the motions and probably quit way too early. And then that feels like you've given up, you feel like a failure. So that doesn't work. So picking an area of self-care to start with another individual who's struggling, they've got to be able to articulate to you fairly clearly with some passion why they want it. If a student or a client can't do that for me, I help them get to that point, but I'm not going to put any real time or effort into helping them if it's not a defined actual goal or something that they truly want. And sometimes it's about sort of helping them to point out what's not working in their life, where they're like, oh, you're right. So I do have control. Because if you're really beaten down, Alex, if you don't believe you have the ability to change your life, if you truly feel like a victim, that's not the right time to be working on making changes. Sometimes we've got to build you up a little bit, and then it's time to start working on this. That's where, with a person like that, I'd probably start with a gratitude journal. So that's a great tool to build you up to maybe the level playing field, where then you can start taking, baby steps to getting to where you want. The last area that people use is prayer and meditation, which really allows you to get focused and to really start doing those I am statements, and to ask God for help in the areas that you need it, and to get clear on what it is you're asking for. So I know we're just about out of time. So if there's any last questions, I'd be happy to take those now. Thank you so much for listening and your attention.
Thank you. We did get one that came in I find interesting. And it really touches on what we talked about earlier with distraction, but on the other side of it, recharging. So how many of us, or so many of us, use social media or even watching TV to actually relax and recharge? Yet it can be a distraction, which we've touched on several times. So maybe we do this to an excess. Can you talk about how those types of entertainments work in this self-care routine, and what are some of the warning signs to where it's no longer helpful but hurtful?
Well, Corey, flat out answer, I don't think they work in a self-care. I think there's a lot of competition and comparing and not being able to live up to the Joneses. And I think, now, do I get on social media? Absolutely. I have friends, I have foster daughters that I keep in touch with that I can find that way. So there is a purpose, but it can also suck you in, right? It can draw you in. And I think, again, sorry, I keep going back to this why, but what are you trying to accomplish? And if that's not meeting it for you, I've just given a whole list of other things you can do instead of tweeting, right? So this gives you an opportunity to, and maybe you have to do something as easy as setting a timer to say, okay, you've got 15 minutes today to get on social media, go. When the timer goes off, you have to have the self-discipline to stop and get off. Otherwise, you can go down those rabbit holes and there can be hours that have gone by, kind of the same as eating that bag of chips in front of Netflix, right? You're not being mindful. You're not in the moment. You're not being present. You're allowing some outside force, some other circumstance to tell you what to do, basically. I don't know about you, but I don't like to be told what to do. That's why I work for myself. And I think I sure am not going to let a social media device be that in my life. And I think that attitude can really help. So knowing, that why do we set an alarm in the morning? Because we just keep sleeping. So if setting an alarm, or, I see a lot of times people will take a little break from social media. They'll say goodbye for a while. And then sometimes they don't come back. Sometimes they do. It really is a time to figure out, oh, how do I feel that I'm not on social media? Do I feel better? Do I feel worse? Am I getting more done in my life? Am I spending more quality time with my family? Really, I would encourage them to do a little bit of digging and find out, how is it affecting me? And am I happy with that? And how can I improve? I think self-improvement, in my opinion, is right up there with self-care. And I'm always trying to improve myself. I'm always trying to learn more and read the next book or listen to the next podcast. And that really gives me a lot of joy and a lot of happiness to continue to be the best I can be, both for me and for others. And maybe one of our listeners out there might take that challenge and put down the social media and work on some self-improvement instead. It's all about time management.
Thank you.
Well, folks, that's about all the time we have today. I want to thank our presenters and moderators for being here. Thank you so much, Alex and Corey, for moderating. Thank you, Debbie, again for sharing these really awesome tips and tricks for our audience. So to our attendees, I want you to know that you will receive a link to the replay of this event, and you're welcome to share that link with friends or family, and you're welcome to rewatch that if you would like a refresher as well. So on behalf of Advice Chaser, thank you so much for coming. Here at Advice Chaser, we're all about helping you find a financial advisor who's a great fit for your life and your financial questions. Our matching service is free to you, and every one of our advisor partners has committed to offer a free initial consultation to anyone we introduce them to. Find out more by going to advicechaser.com and clicking on the link to find an advisor. Once again, from Advice Chaser, thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you at another webinar soon. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.